Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. Anyone who follows my channel knows that on all of my videos, 300 or so to date, there's always an ad segment of Enchroma Glasses, right? The reason I chose to use an affiliate link for Enchroma for my videos is solely because I believe in them as a product. And so I've been connected with Enchroma since like my old channel. I used to have an art channel on YouTube that didn't do particularly well. But I put a few videos up there because of art and colorblindness related things. I've made some videos about Enchroma, and because that channel's dead and dying now, and I never look at the notifications or anything, I thought it's best to bring all that into the future and update it and, you know, give you more of a progress report on my experience with Enchroma. Now, I just want to get out of the way up front. I do choose Enchroma as an affiliate for my channel, like I said, to pay for little incidental things and stuff like that. I don't make a ton of money from them. They don't sponsor me. They have no connection to me other than my affiliate link. And so I just want you to take with a grain of salt everything I say. I'm not here to sell you glasses, but I do know what it's like being somebody who's interested in getting them and not knowing whether they're worthwhile, how they work, or anything like that. Now, again, everything I'm going to say today isn't coming from Enchroma. It's been stuff that I've sort of garnered through my own personal experience and by looking up things online and talking to a few other people. So if I say anything that's factually inaccurate as far as the science of how they work or whatever, that's on me. I'm just compiling the knowledge base that I've picked up by being interested in these glasses for some time. So if you're still here, let's go back to the very beginning. How did I get involved with owning Enchroma glasses? You know, we've all seen the ads on Facebook and things like that where somebody, or not ads really, they're viral videos, where somebody will get their loved one a pair of the glasses, they'll go down the park, they'll put them on, have a party with balloons and everything, and the person will see color for the first time and it will change their perspective and people will cry and all that sort of stuff. Straight off the bat, I wanted to say that wasn't my initial reaction to the glasses. But let's rewind a little bit. And my philosophy was I kind of was in two minds about even considering them because on what I'd read, they don't correct color blindness, right? Based on that alone, I was skeptical myself because I would think to myself, I kind of am not interested in seeing this virtualized version of what color vision is if it's not going to be 100% accurate. And what I mean by that is Enchroma glasses won't allow you to pass the Ishihara test. You won't be able to miraculously join the Air Force or do any of those sort of things because the way that they work isn't the same as seeing color vision perfectly with the correct level of chromatic vision that normal people have. And by normal people, I know you're a normal guy or girl, but you know what I mean? I'm just using broad terms. That was kind of where I was at. As somebody who paints and everything like that, I've always had a love-hate relationship with color because I never get the colors right. I don't see the world accurately, so I couldn't even represent the colors properly, even if I knew exactly what I was doing with color theory and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so I was in two minds about actually even looking into them because my philosophy was if they're not going to cure my color blindness, then I don't want to know. I don't want a half measure. I just want to, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And one day I was talking about something on Facebook and a friend of mine, a brother of one of my best friends from high school contacted me and said, oh, I bought a pair of Enchroma glasses for he's a tradie and he had an apprentice and who's colorblind. And so he bought him a pair to see, you know, as a gift. And it's like, hey, you're colorblind. Here's these glasses. Maybe they'll work for you. But he said, look, I could borrow the glasses off him and bring them over to you if you want on the way home, and you can try them for the weekend and see how you like them. And so at that point, I didn't know too much about how the glasses worked or anything like that. And I thought, you know what? If I'm not going to have to pay for the experience, I'll give it a try, right? So it turns out the glasses that he had were actually the Dutan lenses. I'm actually a strong pro-tan, right? So initially when I got the glasses and put them on, I was like, I had the exact experience I figured I would have. And that is that it wouldn't be this big life-altering change of me sitting there crying, wondering how I've gotten through life by seeing the world the way that I do, right? And so I went into my backyard in full sunlight, the way you're supposed to, because the glasses do work best in broad daylight. I looked around my backyard and I'm like, I mean, it's different. It kind of looks a little bit like, looking at the world through any sunglasses that have some sort of a tint, you know, where it's like you're seeing it and you're like, it's the colored lenses are altering the way I see color. Then I thought, the literature says you should wear them for a long period of time, up to 10 hours over the course of a few weeks, and to not keep switching between. The immediate sort of compulsion is to look at something that looks a little bit unusual through the glasses and then go, well, how do I really see it? You know, and do that sort of thing. And apparently that's not the way to do it. The way is to put the glasses on, forget you're wearing them, let your eyes adjust to them over time, and then you start picking things up. On that note, I did take the glasses out, jumped in the car, and I thought I'll drive to we've got a local botanical gardens. I'm sure they got a garden bed or something that I can look around and see if anything, you know, crazy purples or anything pop out at me. And so the first real vivid moment I had with the glasses was I was driving down the end of my block and I came around to a traffic light and I looked at the traffic light. And in Australia, I'll see if I can put up a picture of them if I can find one. In Australia, the green traffic lights, well, I always assumed they were white, which was really weird, right? But, you know, to me, it was like almost like looking at a normal floodlight. That's kind of what a green light looks like to me. And then you've got an orange light, which looks kind of red. And then you've got a red light that looks like a darker red. That's how I see the traffic lights, right? So I'm driving along and I glance over at the traffic lights and I see that the little green arrow is actually green, like a green color, like a leaf on a tree. And I'm like, since when? And then of course I did what everyone does. I went like this and suddenly the light looks like white to me again. I'm like, okay, so I pop it back on and I'm like, oh, so they do work. It's just more subtle than I was expecting. I was expecting to put them on and suddenly I was in a whole new universe of color, right? So that was kind of my first experience. And then I went to the botanical gardens and I looked around and there wasn't actually that much in the way of flowers there and stuff. So, you know, and then I started noticing little things like the color of cars was a little bit more obvious, like reds. A red car seemed red as opposed to, you know, normally when I look at it, it looks red, but this was like a vivid red, like fire truck red. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I check again and sure enough, the car doesn't look like that to me. It looks almost like an olive green or a dark olive green. So I'm like, okay, so maybe the glasses do work and maybe I just need to adjust my perspective. Anyway, I made a video about that and how I didn't have that viral experience, right? But the traffic light thing actually did switch my perspective and go, okay, it's not snake oil. They're doing something. And then, so I had to give the glasses back, but I made a video about that experience. And the reason I appreciate what Enchroma does is someone in their PR team or whatever contacted me based on that video and said, listen, we love your interpretation because a lot of times people get the glasses expecting to have the same reaction as everybody else that they see on these viral videos. And then when they don't have that initial visceral reaction, they think the glasses don't work or, you know, it's not as good as I expected, or I think everybody else is faking it or whatever. And it turns out me being a strong pro-tan, strong meaning my red deficiency is worse than the average colorblind person. I was never going to have that viral experience, right? Because the glasses work on more moderately colorblind people to that degree. Whereas my colorblindness is a little bit more severe as far as the way Enchroma ranks it. And therefore, you know, I had to really kind of look hard for the thing. All that being said, I was wearing Dutan glasses and I'm a pro-tan, right? Which is similar types of colorblindness, but still different. Anyway, so they were super kind about it. They said, we'd love to use your video on our site. Which that was the game changer for me, because why would a company who's getting all this free press from viral videos look at my video, which wasn't as positive? It was a little bit positive, but it wasn't anywhere near as positive as the other ones, and go, we want to use your video in our marketing because it's more of a realistic expectation than a lot of the other videos that people produce for Enchroma. And so I thought that's actually really cool because, you know, I mean, there's something behind that. Obviously they can look at it and go, we'll get less returns if people know exactly what to expect, possibly, because they do have a 60-day return policy. But, you know, for me, I thought they were pretty cool, you know, but again, the other thing I should mention too, is because they used my video, in exchange for that, they offered me a gift voucher to their store. So I used that gift voucher to buy a pair of well, actually these glasses here, the strong Pro-Tan actual lenses that are suited to me, right? And so I'm really grateful for that, obviously. And so these glasses I didn't actually pay for or buy. So again, there is something in that as well, because I don't have a vested interest in these because I didn't spend the money to buy these. I got them through, you know, an exchange with Enchroma in exchange for them essentially licensing my video to use, right? So I thought that was super cool. And I got those. I also managed to, using that budget, to pick up these ones as well, which some of you who've done your research know there's inside glasses as well. As you'll notice, they don't have the strong Pro-Tan lenses. The strong Pro-Tan ones have an extra layer of red. It's hard to make out on camera, but you can sort of see how red that is compared to the indoor glasses. They have a tint, but it's not the same. I find these to be a lot more subtle. They work as advertised. They're designed for looking at things like computer screens and things like that, where it's a bright light. And I'll explain why brightness is a factor a little bit later in the video. But I managed to get both of these and really give them a test drive. And what I found is obviously having the right glasses does help. I still don't have that same experience of putting the glasses on and boom, the world's completely changed. But I suspect that's got a lot to do with the fact that, again, my level of colorblindness is a little bit more severe. So that said, I did what I was supposed to do with these ones. And I wore them as my daily sunglasses. Anytime I went out to the dog park or went for a walk or whatever, I'd put the glasses on. And what I discovered is putting the glasses on doesn't usually give you this intense shift in perspective, right? What I found is when I wore the glasses for, 10 or 20 minutes to the point where I'd forgotten what everything looked like, and then I take the glasses off, especially if I'm somewhere where there's a lot of trees and grass and, oranges and reds and things like that in the environment, bright colored flowers and stuff. It's when you take the glasses off that you get that vivid shift in color perception. And that really struck a chord with me, because now I can put the glasses on. Nothing appears to really change, but as my eyes get used to it over time, I take the glasses off. All of a sudden, I literally have this A-B moment of comparison where my vision shifts back into like that zone of how I normally see. And so much life and color and everything just gets sucked out of the experience. And I'm like, oh my God. The thing that really blew my mind is how much depth perception changes, because a lot of what we see as far as distance and perspective of like looking into the distance and gauging distances between objects in going out to the horizon, is that there's subtle color shifts, right? So I noticed when I was sitting in a park and I was looking at this bank of trees, there was depth to it, because the different types of greens and browns suddenly were shifting into their own contexts. And you were seeing this depth perception that when I took the glasses off, it almost feels like everything just flattens, because all of a sudden, all of the greens and browns and ambers and everything shift, at least in my case, towards yellow. And so suddenly there's not all these different variations. There's just one murky kind of yellowy, green, brown, and red. And having, that chromatic shift changes the way you perceive distance, if that makes sense. And I mean distance based on comparing objects in the distance. And, of course, obviously, the further you look away, light fall off means that, things that are much further distance, a lot of the red falls away and you see a lot more blues, just because of the way light scatters and things like that. To me, it's more of a subtractive thing. When I take the glasses off and I see how my vision is in reality, that's when I get the shock factor. And then, of course, there's other things that are constant reminders. Even to this day, I've had the glasses now for several years. I'll be driving along and I'll see a beautiful red car, like the most vivid red you can imagine in your mind's eye. Not like the way you see the world, but close your eyes and think of a fire truck. There's a specific color of red that you imagine, right? And I'll see a car drive past that looks like that, and I'm like, holy cow! And then I think, what does that really look like to me? And I'll pull the glasses down, and it won't even be red. It's like a dark mixture of, like, imagine like a maroon with like an olive green hue to it. And it's because in my eyes, the red shifts towards yellow. And so it makes that red kind of murky and like, you know, like an unripe tomato sort of thing. And that's the key to me, is that the glasses haven't improved my color vision in that my eyes work better now from having, because, you know, you read things going, your color perception will improve over time if you use the glasses enough. And I don't think that's true. I think what happens is over time you start to really understand what your deficiency looks like, and your brain can start to compensate in the way that you interpret colors. Like you can make better educated guesses. Like I know now that when I look at pastel pinks, then to me they look gray. When I've got the glasses on, I can see it's pink. But then when I take the glasses off, it turns gray. So now when I look at something in context, I can look at it, something that's gray, and now I can assume, oh, that's probably a pale pink. You know, so you become better at sort of understanding your deficiency and therefore compensating for it logically. That's been my experience anyway. But yeah, it's definitely helped a lot with understanding, you know, how I see the world and how my perception gets altered. Like blues look normal, reds don't, yellows look normal, but so to make purple, you mix blue and red together, right? So if I don't see the red, if the red sort of recedes in the background and becomes less saturated in the mix, suddenly a purple is really just a dark blue, you know, at least that's the way I interpret it. Now, when I put the glasses on, I can it shifts back and I can sort of go, okay, I don't know if I see that purple perfectly, but I do know that that's not blue, right? The other thing that I wasn't prepared for is a lot of people think that when you put the glasses on, and maybe if you're not a strong pro tan, maybe if you're a dew tan or just a normal pro tan, you get that visceral reaction. It's not going to immediately mean that you now can identify every color because you've never learned the colors. You don't know what purple looks like. In fact, what I was doing is I was putting the glasses on and seeing these really intense purples, and I'd say to my partner, is that purple? And she'd be like, no, that's like a hot pink. And it occurred to me at that point, and of course I made this mistake several times, and it occurred to me at that point, it's like, I don't know what purple looks like. I think dark, vivid sort of pink is a purple, you know? And so you got to recalibrate your understanding of colors too. And so, all of this is to say, do the glasses work? They do, but probably not in the way that you expect, at least in my experience. Okay, so let's talk about how the glasses actually work. Now, again, this is all my understanding from research I've done. So if this is slightly inaccurate, feel free in the comments to chime in and fill us in, because it's really complicated science and I'm not a scientist. However, the way that I understand that they work is in our eyes, we have receptors for colors, right? Red, green, blue. With chromatic deficiencies, one of those or more is actually malformed or it doesn't work particularly well. And therefore, rather than getting 100% receptors across the color frequency spectrum, one of those is a little bit altered. And so our vision skews towards the other two. So that's why I was saying earlier about how, to me, when I take the glasses off, everything that's red or colors that are built around red shift towards yellow. And so you end up with this murky, orangey, green, mustardy kind of version of red. And again, you don't notice that until you've had the glasses on and you take them off and you go, oh, okay, because you see the world how you see the world. You've grown up that way. 45 years for me of seeing the world a certain way. It's not until you're taken out of that frame of mind for a few minutes that you put back in it, you notice the subtle differences, right? So the way the glasses work is they use a filter that will take all of the frequencies. This is why it's important you get the right glasses for your vision. So say in my case, my red receptor is terrible. So what it does is it takes in a very simplistic way, it takes the blues and yellows in the frequency spectrum of light and it pulls them down, right? So now comparatively where I had blue and yellow and red down here, now it's pulling these down. It's attenuating those frequencies using filtration or notch filtering down to the point where they're now relatively on par with where red sits, right? So where red is, if you imagine it like you got bass, mid-range and treble speakers, right? And your mid-range is kind of crappy. It's going to sound bassy and toppy, but not a lot of mids. So if you turn down the bass and the treble, then everything sounds even again, right? So then what happens is your eyes are these miraculous devices that work very similar to cameras. They have their own dynamic range adjustment, right? So imagine if you turn down the blues and yellows to match the red. Now everything's darker, right? There's less, you're less able to discern and distinguish between things because now you've put the glasses on, everything's darker than it was. These two colors have been filtered down to match where your red is, or, you know, whatever, green if you're too tan, I believe. So then what happens is your eyes are these miraculous devices that then readjust the dynamic range in the same way that when you walk into a dark room, your eyes will adjust over time so that now you can make things out in the room that was probably a little darker than it was in the other room, right? So dynamically, your eyes adjust, it brightens everything back up again, and now miraculously, you're seeing an interpretation of the world in color where all of the color levels match each other, and you're seeing an even spread of the frequency range. Now, is that perfect? No, because the science of that is incredibly complicated. And, you know, we still don't see as many millions of different variations of the colors as everyone else does. But what it does do is the ones that we can see well, it accentuates, and therefore it gives us the impression of seeing the world more colorfully. Again, I'm not an expert, but this is how I understand the process to work. And in my experience of using the glasses, it kind of matches, right? So this is why when you wear the glasses, you're not going to pass an Ishihara test or a dot test, like you see the colorblind test with all the dots, because you're still not seeing as broad a spectrum of color as everyone else. But what it's doing is it's taking the muddled nature of parts of our frequency range, removing them out of the equation, so you're left with a more clear picture, right, across the board. And so that to me is really incredible science. And my initial skepticism that I mentioned earlier in the video about how I wasn't super keen on trying out these things if they weren't going to fix me 100%, you know, my initial reaction was to feel like I didn't really want to invest my time and energy into something that wasn't going to fix me 100%. But having experienced the glasses now, I know I can understand their value long term. And that is, I say in my videos all the time, it's reshaped the way I interpret color in the world, even when I'm not wearing the glasses. Do I see color better without the glasses? No, I don't believe I do. But my understanding of color and the way I interpret color myself is a lot clearer now. It makes more sense. And then that said, you know, for times when I need to see the world in more vivid color, I have my glasses. I can pop these on when I'm going around driving or whatever, and I can see traffic lights a lot easier, and I can see street signs. The one thing that really stands out is emergency signage, right? So when you go out on a boat and you're going across the water, those orange buoys, however you want to say it, or like signs that are warning signs and stuff like that, suddenly they leap out from the environment. And now I understand why they choose those colors. Because, you know, to me, like orange has always kind of stood out, but it's never stood out to the point where I understood why every emergency sign in the world is bright orange, especially on the water, because it's contrasting to the blues and things like that. And again, street signs, road signs, you know, telling you where to go and stuff like that are specifically chosen colors to pop out from the background environment. And in Australia, our environment, semi-urban, rural, whatever, is a lot of greens and browns of like trees and things like that in the background. And so where a sign used to kind of blend into the environment, like I was talking about the three-dimensional element of it, now when I'm wearing the glasses, a lot of those signs will pop out from the environment just because they're designed to be colors that are contrasting. Whereas before, if it was orange, that orange would skew towards yellow. The greens and browns from the background of the trees and the foliage was skewing towards yellow. So now I'm looking at a vista that's got greens and yellow bushes, green, yellow sign. Sign doesn't stand out. But when everything gets put back into context, you've got these, you know, greens and brown background, and then this orange sign or this bright red sign leaps out from you because now there's a differentiation between what used to be a whole bunch of just murky green, brown, yellows. Now there's like specific colors that are contrasting with one another, and the context makes sense. I always tell people, I don't understand what clashing means when people say those colors clash. I don't know what that means, because to me, no colors have ever been put next to each other and looked wrong, right? Because again, they're all just a collection of blues or yellows in a whole bunch of different, regions of blue or yellow, So everything kind of works. Whereas if you put the glasses on and all of a sudden you see all of those colors put back into context, now I can understand how color relationships really matter. Now let's talk about the indoor glasses. My experience with these has been a little bit different because, again, you can't get the indoor glasses in strong protan. So when I put them on, it does make a difference. But I feel like, for me personally, it's way more subtle. And again, what I noticed, because I realized one day I can use these to play video games. I got them to do design work and stuff like that. But I thought, I got this big TV. I always sit right in front of it. Let's put the glasses on and experience a really beautiful game. I chose, I think it was Ori and the Blind Forest, which, if you've played, is definitely motivated by its art style, right? It's an absolutely beautiful, visceral game with lots of colors and bright things moving and, particle effects and all that sort of thing. And so again, I put it on and I wasn't super blown away with things. I was kind of noticing a few colors standing out here and there. And I played for about half an hour, forgot I had the glasses on. And again, I took the glasses off. And what blew me away was, again, the relationship between the colors meant that all of a sudden this beautifully vivid 3-dimensional game sucked back into a 2-dimensional sort of like art style when I took the glasses off. And again, that's for me anyway, that's when I really noticed that the glasses are doing something. And in the terms of gaming with the indoor glasses, it's kind of more to me like it adds an extra layer of immersion, because now when I'm standing there looking at the TV, I feel like the TV has depth. And then when I take the glasses off, everything just shifts back into feeling very much like 2D. And again, it's not that I'm seeing anything differently as far as details and shapes and things like that. It's the relationship between the background and foreground colors and the tones and hues that they use specifically to give you the sense of depth. Those are the things that change. And it's subtle at first, but then after a while you kind of get into it and you're like, wow, and you start noticing things are receding and some things are really pushing into the foreground and things like that. So yeah, I may be overselling it a little bit because it is really hard to explain the benefits to somebody who doesn't experience them or can't experience them. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say. In summary, I feel like what I'm trying to say with this video is, do the glasses work? In my experience, they do, but temper your expectations. Go into it with an expectation that you may not have that visceral experience of people losing their mind every time they put the glasses on for the first time and look around, right? Sometimes it's more of a learning process and sort of getting to understand the subtlety of the way that it's changing your vision over time. And that's not to say you won't have that experience. I'm just saying, me personally, I went in with tempered expectations because I felt like perhaps, it may not have been super accurate what we were seeing. And I feel like sometimes people make videos. The other thing that was skeptical in me is that when loved ones give you a present and everyone sits around waiting for you to have this reaction and you put the glasses on, nobody wants to sit there and feel like they're letting people down. So I was wondering how much of a dramatization it was on the part of the person, the colorblind person. And I feel like most of the videos I've seen, now that I've had this experience, I feel like most of the videos I've seen are actually fairly accurate and fairly truthful. And I'm sure there's a few that people are just sort of like going through the motions of the expectations of the situation. But in my case, I'm just putting it out there. I didn't have that experience, but I wouldn't trade having the glasses for anything. And as someone who went into it not wanting to mess around with it because I felt like from what I'd learned from reading about it, it doesn't fix you. I'm kind of glad I did actually take that dive, which I never would have if my friend hadn't loaned me his glasses. Because now I understand what I was missing and I understand what the glasses do and I understand the subtlety of it, but also the power of understanding your deficiency, especially if you're somebody who thinks about color a lot and may do art and things like that. This will reshape the way you interpret the world around you. And I don't think that's too hyped up to say. I think that's fairly true and fairly accurate. And again, at the end of the day, there's a 60-day trial period. If you buy the glasses, you put them on, you can send them back if you don't feel like they're worthwhile. But do me a favor and give them a good solid go. Like, use the glasses for a month and just see if over time, if you don't have a good experience to begin with, or like, yeah, that's not true. You're going to have an experience of wearing sunglasses, right? If you don't have an experience that alters your perception of color in a month, then maybe it's not for you, and then return the glasses. But do me a favor personally and give them a red hot go. Because again, for me, it wasn't instant. It was something that I developed a relationship with the glasses over time. Yeah, I think that's all I got to say. If you feel like I've helped in any way with you making the decision, please do me a favor. Click the link in the description. It'll take you to Enchroma. You can do an eye test there. And if you do decide to buy glasses, that affiliate link goes a long way to help my channel, paying for little things, again, like hosting and incidental sort of things. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful, and good luck on your journey. Good luck on your journey discovering you've come this far. Take the step, man. That's all I can say. To me, it was worth it, and I hope it's worth it for you too. So anyway, as I always say on this channel, stay primal. I'll catch you on the next one.